And we are live. It's your favorite insurance agent, DarnaldJr. What's up, Finlit Live family? We are talking about personal finances, and today we're talking about the 5 strategies on how you can achieve financial success. This is a lady that is obsessed about learning, and she wants to share that knowledge with you. So this is the show to tune into if you want to get educated on your personal financial success. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and get lit. Right, for today's show, she came highly recommended by her husband. She's like, you need to have my wife on your show because she knows a ton about personal finances. So without any further ado, let's bring on Olivia. Hey,
Hi,
Olivia, how's it going?
Doing well. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, thank you for taking time out your busy schedule to be here on the show. And before we get started, go ahead and introduce yourself, who you are, where you're from, and what are you up to?
Hi there. I'm Olivia. I am a licensed physical therapist. I've been doing physical therapy for a while, about 17 years, and I am a mother of 2. And of course, like life is, just staying very busy with the whole changes in life. Of course, have discovered a little bit more about financial independence, and I'm on this little rat hole, just trying to learn as much as possible.
Excellent. I think that's a key for a lot of people. People are on that track of financial independence because that's a huge word because like people don't want to be enslaved in debt for the rest of their lives. Would you agree with that statement?
Definitely.
So before we get started, let's hear a little bit of background about your story. Like obviously you're in physical therapy. Like what inspired you to start learning about personal finances and kind of what was your journey and how you achieved financial independence?
Well, I guess the financial independence journey started off with a whole lot of debt. Like, you realize where you're at. And it was back in 2012. So when they say that it happens overnight, definitely not. So in 2012, we discovered Dave Ramsey. I'm pretty sure you're familiar with him.
Absolutely.
Yes. And so we discovered that we were in a whole lot of debt and not super on the right track to achieve not only financial independence, but just getting out of debt. So that's where we started. And that's where our journey began in just trying to pay off as much of our college loans that we had. Both of us had accumulated, my husband and I. Lots of consumer debt. Of course, we had cars, we had a house, all of that stuff that you, of course, at that time you feel you need. And then you realize that, yes, but you also need to, plan for the future and start looking into that as well. So it's been a balancing act for sure.
Absolutely. So smash that like button if you could relate with her. How many people are like up to their eyeballs in debt and just like spending on their credit card or taking out loans or doing this? Like smash that like button. Let her know you could relate with her because there's a lot of Americans that are in that exact same situation right now as we speak. And so that's the purpose of the show. So we can learn, how do we dig ourselves out of this hole? Because that's not a fun hole to be in. Is that correct?
No, yes. So we started being more diligent, about how you spend. We started being more diligent about, I guess, not allowing so much of that lifestyle creep that most of us can get as we're growing and having children and things like that. So we started working on that as a team, which I think is crucial. It's crucial in any relationship that you have to be on the same page for certain things, especially a huge task like that of trying to eliminate your consumer debt.
Absolutely. So what was step number one for you guys? Like, what was the first step in order for you?
Well, we kind of did the whole debt snowball that Dave Ramsey recommends. So we started off with the smallest amount and worked our way up to the larger amounts. And it worked. It worked for us. I mean, not as fast as we would have liked, of course, but over time we were able to eliminate all of our consumer debt.
So for those that don't know what debt snowball is, because you and I both know what debt snowball is, let's educate people. What exactly is debt snowball?
So the debt snowball is the idea of paying off the smallest amount of debt that you have first, so that you kind of get a little bit of a psychological reward doing that. And hopefully, once you pay off that smaller debt, of course, everything you were sending to that account or that amount, then you take that into the next amount. And that's kind of what they call the debt snowball. And that's how you go in steps trying to attack that debt.
Excellent. That's like Dave Ramsey 101, right?
Yes.
Excellent. So then what was the next step after you pay down your debt? Like, it's one thing to pay down your debt, but that doesn't make you necessarily financially free, does it?
No, not at all. So then you need to start looking a little bit more about your budget or your cash flow, how your money is going in and out of your accounts and in and out of your life. And so we started looking in on that as well. And so that's still, of course, that's what we're doing till today. I don't think that ever stops.
Yeah. And so you also found a newfound love in investing. Is that correct?
Yes. Well, investing we had done since the beginning. Actually, as soon as we got our first, I guess, professional jobs, we started investing because one professor in my university said it was a good idea. But
Nice.
like you mentioned, nobody teaches you about money. Nobody teaches you about the steps of where to go or anything like that. So you kind of discover that just along the way. So yes, we started investing in each of our employer plans for retirement.
Okay, so you invest in your employer sponsor funds, right?
Right.
And so is it one of those funds where the company actually matches a percentage of
It
it?
was actually it was pretty good for my company. They would match 6%. So it was pretty good. Yeah. And I'm not sure on the actual for my husband, but yeah. So we did that. And it was interesting because before we went into the whole, I went into the whole financial independence. We were like, oh, okay, well, we got that one right. we were doing that okay. And yeah, so even while we were paying down debt, we still kept investing.
Excellent. Yeah, I think that's very wise that if people have a company where the company wants to match part of what you're putting towards your 401k, that's smart money because it's basically free money. Like if they match dollar for dollar, you literally doubled your investment just from what the employer put in, correct?
Yes. And what I've learned now is that actually the time in the market is more important than timing the market, which is not a good idea for anybody to do. So the earlier than anybody can start, the better. So that's like, if I would have known that, I would have started with my first high school job, but of course, yeah.
They don't teach us. They don't teach us.
No, of course not.
Yep. Yeah, I heard somewhere that if you give a kid like $6,000 from the day they're born, you don't have to invest anything else, just from your point time in the market. By the time that kid retires, like he'll be a millionaire just based on the $6,000 investment the moment the baby's born. And
Wow.
that's based on the averages, the historical averages of the stock market.
Yeah. That's what I've heard too. That it's very important to start early, to start as early as you can.
Absolutely. So let's expound on that a little bit. You said time in the market is better than time in the market. So what do you mean by time in the market, and why is time in the market even more beneficial?
Mainly because of compound interest, and so as the time passes by, your assets hopefully increase, and they also recommend for you to kind of like not mess with the funds as much, like the day trading or anything like that. Kind of recommend kind of like set it and forget it kind of deal.
Hmm. That's huge. Yeah, with compound interest, what it does is the money you put in, you'll earn, let's say you earn 10%, just for easy math. You put $100 in 1 year and it earns 10%. So that means it goes up to 110%, right?
Hmm.
So the second year, you don't start off at $100, but you start off at $110, right?
Hmm.
And so if you earn another 10% on that $110, you don't make $10 more, you make actually $11 more the next year. And each year, the more and more you have in there, the more it goes up, correct?
Correct. Yes.
And so that's why time in the market is that much more important than timing the market. To your point, you mentioned day trading. It turns out, statistically speaking, most day traders end up negative, end
Do
up down,
they? Yeah.
end up losing
Yeah.
money. And
I know.
so, and
That's what
I know that from experience myself because I've done a couple of day trades.
too.
So, like I did during the COVID, when the pandemic first hit, I was like, "Ooh, the market's going to tank. Let me play the downside of this market." And I took a couple $1,000s and threw it into some options, and I literally built $2,000 into $19,000 in a span of 2 weeks.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Hmm.
but guess what?
In the
They
next
started.
2 weeks.
Well, they start talking about all the vaccines and stuff like that, and then the market like reversed and started going back up. And guess what? I lost it all.
Oh my gosh.
So to your point, day trading, most day traders are losers, right? So it's all about long-term investing, right?
Hmm.
So
Definitely.
awesome. So what other tips and tricks do you have as far as building your net worth and helping you become financial independent?
The next step I would recommend is to start accumulating assets. I didn't even really know what an asset was. So, the definition of an asset is pretty much like anything that puts money in your pocket instead of taking money out of your pocket. So, without realizing it, we were became real estate investors in, was that 2019, thanks to our sister-in-law. She's a realtor. And in 2019, so okay, so that was we had finished paying off our primary residence, which was huge for us. We were super excited. So we were telling the whole family, we were telling the whole world, we were so excited that we had finished paying off our house. And my sister-in-law was a realtor, or is a realtor, and she's like, "Well, then I suggest you get an investment property." And I was like, "What? You think so?" And she's like, "Yeah. So whatever you were paying off for your mortgage, now you can have a like a rental property investment." And so we discussed it, and we were like, "Okay, well, that sounds like a good idea." But we honestly jumped in, feet first, and became instant landlords like overnight. So that was an experience in itself. So that's, go ahead.
Oh, I bet that's a whole nother show in and of itself, is it? On how to be a landlord, on how
Yes.
to do it the
Yes.
correct way, on how to do it the incorrect way. I bet you learned a lot of lessons.
And it's definitely not passive, for sure. So,
That part.
yes, anybody that tells you that real estate investing is passive is lying to you. It is definitely not a passive activity. So, you will be getting calls, you will be getting a lot of. How the way we saw it ultimately is we kind of saw it as a side hustle for
Mhm.
us, because we still have our W-2 jobs. So we saw landlording as, okay, well, that's our side hustle, because that's always encouraged as well. Like if you want to have a little bit extra income, you pick up on a, an extra job here or an extra side hustle. So real estate became our side hustle.
So, what are some, let's, and we're not going to explore too much into it, but maybe three takeaways as far as what you would have done differently now, if you known then what you know now? Like, what are
Okay.
a couple pointers about being a landlord and starting your first investment property?
All right. Understanding the amortization schedule of your payments, exactly of like how it works, and maybe a little bit more information on the taxes, on your property taxes as well. Um, I would go back and review some of that, and mainly vetting your tenants a little bit better. We did have one instance that we could have done better in vetting our tenants, but we were, new, I guess, rookies on it, and so we're like, oh, it seems fine, and then we were like, what did we do?
Yeah, I heard a neat trick and tip as far as vetting your
Mhm.
tenants is to go check out their car when they're not looking and see how
Okay.
well they take care of their car.
Oh, yeah. Well, there was one instance that I was almost having like an open house because we were going to have a vacant unit, and my son stayed in the car, and I was the only one that was showing it. Well, the parking area, the people that were viewing the property, they just parked next to my son's our car, and my son had his windows rolled down. So then I thought they were the nicest people, and the lady was very friendly. And when I went back into the car, my son was like, "Mom, no." They have their car upside down, and you should see how they talk and this. And so that was interesting because like I was speaking to one person of the family, but of course I didn't get to meet the whole family, and apparently my son got to meet the whole rest of the family.
Oh, wow.
And he was like, nope, not that one.
Wow. So
Yeah.
there's a little bit of truth to that, huh?
So you're totally right, the car situation, because I guess you would act more naturally in your vehicle, right? Probably
Yep.
acting. Yeah, it can it can show a lot about a person probably.
Yeah, more times than not, you don't have guests in your car. And
Yeah.
so you just treat it however which way, and it's a tendency of how they treat their house. I'm a firm believer of like habits. Like
Yes.
however you do one thing is how you do anything.
I've
Right?
heard that, and I've started actually saying that to myself and actually to the kids. Yeah, we're like, hey,
Mhm.
well, we need to focus on this as well. Yeah.
Yep. So
Mm-hmm.
that's awesome. So do you have any other tricks and tips for us on how we become financially independent? Like
Okay. Well, maybe just get a little bit more education on your investments. Like we were talking about day trading and then funds and things like that. So I know, like in our case, we had an investment account with one of those companies that they manage your account for you. And of course, it's not a free service, so they charge you a certain commission that they get paid. But then over time, as your funds grow, you realize exactly how much you're paying them, on a, I guess, on a quarterly basis, on a yearly basis, and you realize that. So when I started doing some digging, I was like, well, maybe we can take control of our own finances and see how we do. So there's a lot of options now with online services that you can kind of manage your own funds, and you're definitely going to save money on that commission that those big guys can be charging.
absolutely. What are some platforms you recommend as far as
Um,
manage your own funds?
Yes, I know Fidelity is one of them. That it's kind of like an easy platform to use. A lot of people speak highly of Vanguard as well. Or now there's even like some robo advisors, and I think that's a little bit more economical as well. But there's definitely a lot more options now than there were like when we started.
Yeah, times are changing and technology is changing, huh?
Yes, yes. So moving with the times a little bit. Yeah, always feeling like you're catching up.
Absolutely. And the reason I love you being on the show is because you literally have no product or service to sell. Like you're not representing any company. This is just your personal story and your personal experience. And I appreciate you for sharing all this with our guests. And so
Hmm.
if you're tuning in, if you have any questions for Olivia, go ahead and type in the chat your questions, and Olivia will answer to the best of her ability based on her experience. Is there anything else you would like to share with our audience here?
Yes. Also, try and just like you do with this show. I mean, just try and understand a little bit more about your money situation. I know money can be like taboo in a lot of households. I mean, it's not something that's openly talked about. But if you can find, more of a support or books that are available, then you can become a little bit more informative of financial options out there. Yeah, the internet is a great tool. I've become an avid fan of podcasts, and just in every podcast you listen to, there's book recommendations or there's another podcast recommendation, and then you follow that as well. And so I've actually been following you, Darnold, as well.
Yay! I appreciate that.
Very enlightening for sure. I've actually probably watched all of them now. So
Thank you. That's that's very humbling.
yes, yes. So it's definitely use your resources. The internet is a great resource to find information. And yeah, if anybody needs to reach out, if they have any questions, I'm even on Facebook. And somebody asked the other day, I'm trying to buy my first home. Does anybody have any recommendations? And I'll get on there and I'll tell somebody, because I'm thinking like, I didn't ask. You just assume that everybody should know these things, and it's
Mhm.
not, yeah, openly available.
It really isn't. Like
Mhm.
even with my Baylor business degree, like they didn't teach me how to purchase my first home. Like
Yeah.
I did trial by fire. Like I was like 24, 25 when I bought my first place, and it's just
Mhm.
like nobody walked me step by step on what to do. Luckily, I had an amazing realtor, and she was gracious enough to guide me by the hand. But
Mhm.
like before that, I had no experience whatsoever. I didn't even ask my parents. I just did it.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah. And my parents, for me, have been like a huge inspiration because I found out, like, after the fact, that they were real estate investors themselves. Like,
mm,
they that they moved from their primary home, and they kept that primary home as a rental. And then they also ultimately ended up buying like a commercial property and stuff like that. I was in college. I wasn't even aware that they were doing all of this. And so
mm,
I'm like, wow, if they're able to do it, then we have no excuse
right. That's awesome.
whatsoever.
It's great to have such an amazing inspiration, a great, amazing role model. I'm pretty sure they're doing phenomenal today, all because they made those choices way back when, right?
Yes, and my dad's motto was always like, if you don't know something, just ask.
Mm,
And so for everything in life, it was just kind of like, okay, well, I don't know, so why don't I ask? And then that's like no shame in questioning or no shame in asking for you to learn. And I think that has just stuck around with me for sure.
absolutely. I actually encourage my team in that. I was like, you can only be dumb. It's okay to be dumb for 15 seconds. But if you're dumb longer than 15 seconds, that's on you.
Yeah, yeah.
Because you didn't ask, right?
Question or a concern, yeah, just raise up your hand. And if somebody doesn't know, at least they'll guide you along the way of where you can possibly find the answer.
Absolutely. So how can people get a hold of you if they want to, if they do have questions and they want to inquire more?
Sure. Probably just on LinkedIn. I'm probably most active on LinkedIn, and it's just my name. It's Olivia Leija Delgado is my husband's last name as well. So you can find me on there, and I'm active on there. And I'm also, if anybody wants to email me with any questions, you can email me at southtxpt@gmail.com, because I'm from South Texas.
South Texas in the house. So that's awesome. And I'm currently in Waco. That's why I'm not in my normal studio.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
well, I appreciate you for taking time out of your busy schedule to hang out with us and to share those gems. And ultimately, where the rubber meets the road is application, right? It's one thing to hear good information. And that's one thing that's very inspirational about you. And I'd like to encourage you that you didn't just learn the information, but you actually applied it. And like you even jumped in even when you weren't ready and you didn't have enough information. You just jumped in and you did it. And that's why you're in the position you are in today. So I applaud you for taking action.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And if you got any value out of today's show, go ahead and smash that like button. If you're on YouTube, I encourage you to subscribe to our show. We go live most Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. And our purpose is to educate you on personal finances and how money works because once again, they don't teach us. And so that's the purpose of the show. I have a ton of questions, and I'm pretty sure you do too. So I open it up to you to have your questions answered. So if you find any value in that, go ahead and subscribe to the show, smash that like button, share this with your friends and family. And if you know somebody that is on that financial independence journey, share this show with them, because any knowledge is great knowledge, especially if they apply it once again. So I appreciate you guys for tuning in, and tune in next week because we have another amazing show lined up for you guys. I appreciate you guys for getting ready.